What's going on, guys? Seth here, doing a tasty bit. TGS is happening right now, and there's a bunch of stuff that's being shown off, and we will discuss a lot of that. Probably for TastyCast, unless something really big gets shown off, then we'll do something. But something was announced that caught my interest, and I thought would be an interesting thing to kind of throw back at you guys and get a conversation started. Because Sony made a huge mistake. They are releasing their own PlayStation Classic, a little miniature PlayStation, just like the Super NES Classic and the NES Classic. And the big mistake they made is they did not call it the PlayStation Junior, which I would have loved for them to call it that. Or what I've been kicking around the office, the little P. Anyway, no mistakes have been made. They're coming out with a PlayStation Classic. They announced that it's coming out December 3rd. It's going to be $99, $99.99, $100, and it's going to be a miniature console that's going to have two classic controllers without the DualShock. So yeah, $100, you're going to get that, and it's supposed to have 20 games on it. They announced 5 of those. I think it's really interesting. They're only saying 5 of the games right now. I actually got an argument on Twitter with somebody because I was like, 20 games, $100, blah, blah, blah. You know, it kind of makes sense for what you're dealing with. And the guy's like, there's only 5 games. I'm like, no, they said 20 games. They announced 5 of them, which are Final Fantasy VII, of course, Jumping Flash, Ridge Racer Type 4, Tekken 3, and Wild Arms. Before I go into anything further, Final Fantasy VII makes sense. I feel like if you're going to release something like this, you'd have to have Final Fantasy VII on it. So definitely welcome. Jumping Flash, I'm like the only person on the planet who, as a person who knows of that game and was around for that game, because some people don't even know that game existed, I have no affinity for it. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's good. I don't care about it. I'm like the only person I know, because anyone I know who knows about those games loves those games. So I'm just not the right guy for that, I guess. But it's making its way onto the PlayStation Classic, or the PlayStation Junior, or like I like to call it, the little P. Ridge Racer Type 4. I think it's really cool that they're adding that, just because Ridge Racer is kind of was their flagship racing game for a while. And that was very indicative of that time. 3D racing on on the original PlayStation. Makes sense. It has to be there. Tekken 3. I mean, Tekken 3 was awesome. Tekken 2 was awesome. Makes sense. It's really cool. They got a fighting game on there. And Wild Arms, I'm very surprised by that one, because I don't know a whole lot of people who played Wild Arms. I know plenty of people who did, but I know more people who didn't play it. So it's pretty cool that they're adding that. Getting some not Final Fantasy RPGs on there is a good thing. Yeah, so far my initial impressions on this thing is I'm really excited for it. I have the SNES Classic. I really like it. I don't have the NES Classic. I liked the NES, but I like the SNES a lot more. And I know these aren't for everybody. For me, they're more of a collector's thing. It's cool to have a little baby version of that console with games on it. Obviously, some people are like, well, it's just ROMs, blah, blah, blah. We know that. So it's not for everybody, but I'm really excited for it. I will definitely be pre-ordering one as soon as I can. And pre-orders are available as of recording this. So if you're in the market for one of these, you probably should get on it, because I don't know how they're going to do. I don't know if they're going to last. Maybe they'll make a lot of them. Maybe there won't be a big demand. I don't know. But the big thing I wanted to throw out to the community, you guys, is first off, I want to know what you think about these classic consoles. Obviously, everybody really liked the NES and the Super NES Classic editions. People are hoping for that 64 Classic. I'm really hoping for it too. And with this PlayStation Classic coming out, it seems like it's a no-brainer. But now that I'm thinking about that these guys are doing it, you know, I would love, even though I know they won't do it, I would love to see an Xbox Classic. And I'd also love to see a Dreamcast Classic. Obviously, they can call it whatever the fuck they want. They call it Junior. They can call it little P, little D, little X box. But I would love to see more of these. I think they're cool. I like that they come with those classic controllers. Brings back the nostalgia. But yeah, I want to know what you guys think about these things. Do you like them? Do you own any of the classic NES or Super NES? And what classic consoles would you like to see come back in a miniature form? Let me know. But next thing I want to get into is, like I said, this is supposed to have 20 games on this. They announced 5 of them. So I was thinking in my head, where I normally think, what games would I want to see on this thing? That gives me 15 other games to have on there. So I thought about a list, and I made one. And I tried to balance it. I tried to think of games. I could sit there and throw on a bunch of RPGs, throw on a bunch of fighting games, whatever. But obviously, if you want to sell this thing and get everyone into it, you gotta balance it. You gotta have enough stuff on there to make everyone want to play on it. It's also coming with 2 controllers, 2 of the original PlayStation controllers. If you got 2 controllers, you need to have multiplayer games on it, which I'm sure they've already thought about this. So I made this list based off those parameters, games that I loved, some games that I liked, but have like a legacy to them, so that I feel like they kind of have to be on there. And when this actually gets released, or they reveal the rest of the games, we'll see how close I got to it. But I invite you guys to take and add to my list, or give me your own list in the comments below. Let's have a conversation on what games we would like to see on this little baby console, little P. So first game I got on here is a must for me. It's the first thing I thought of when I thought of PlayStation. What's a PlayStation game I would want on the little P, little PlayStation Junior? And that's Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid is my favorite series of all time. I love every single one of them. And Metal Gear Solid changed everything for me when it came to gaming. When I first played it, it blew my mind. Games weren't like that yet. Played it, and I've been in love since. So it has to be on there. I really, really hope it is. It would be a huge win for that thing to have Final Fantasy VII and Metal Gear Solid on it. That'd be fucking insane. It'd be worth the price alone for those 2 things. Obviously, you can download ROMs, I get it, but if we're going for the novelty of this, it'd be definitely worth it. That'd be a very cool collector's item. Next one is a personal thing for me. I don't know if a lot of people agree with this, but it was a very impactful game for me on PlayStation. That is Armored Core. Armored Core is a series I also very much love, made by From Software, very popular now for Dark Souls and soon to be Sekiro. But Armored Core is one of my favorite series ever made, and I remember playing the first Armored Core on PlayStation, and it blew my mind. Had awesome customization even back then, multiplayer back then. It was just the beginning of a great series that I hope to see come back. But if that could be on this, which I don't think they'll add it, I think it's worth noting, I don't think it'll be on here. But if it is, I will fucking freak out. Gran Turismo 2, I think, is a must. Gran Turismo 2 is one of the best racing games ever made, in my opinion. I love Gran Turismo 2. Gran Turismo was great. Gran Turismo 2 was better. 2, 4, probably the best. 6 was good as well. It's like all the even numbers are the best ones. But if they had that on there, it would add so much value to this. It'd be insane. I loved Gran Turismo 2, even though now it would probably look like shit. Next one I got is Legend of Mana. It's a no-brainer. Legend of Mana was a great game. Secret of Mana obviously was a great game. This would add just that element of getting those classic RPGs on here. There's multiplayer in Legend of Mana. It's a great game. I loved it. And I think it would kind of, hit a little bit of everything. It's got a little bit of action, a little bit of RPG elements in it. It's got that multiplayer. I think it would go great on this thing. I would love to see it on there. Next game is Final Fantasy Tactics, another no-brainer. This is one of the most popular games that was on PlayStation. It's one of the most popular Final Fantasies ever made. Having a tactical RPG on this thing would be awesome. If you haven't played Final Fantasy Tactics, I definitely suggest playing it. It would be a great get for that. Next one is also a must for me and my second favorite game series of all time, Silent Hill, the original Silent Hill. I would love to see the original Silent Hill on there. To get some survival horror on this thing would be awesome. I would love to be able to revisit that on the same console that I have Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy VII on. It would be a complete celebration of all things PlayStation if you had those 3 games on there. Silent Hill's a must. I would love to see that on there. Next one is also, in my opinion, a must. I think it's iconic of early PlayStation. That is Twisted Metal 2. I say Twisted Metal 2 because that was pretty much everyone's favorite. It was a better version of Twisted Metal. Had the multiplayer, so you got the 2 controllers, be perfect. It was a fun game. Had a lot of personality. Has the most memorable maps. It was just a really cool game. And I feel like personally it's a must. I feel like it needs to be on there. Next one I added because I feel like it needs to be on there. I keep saying that. I liked the game fine, but I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I know a lot of people are. But I feel like it has to be on there because it was so popular in the time, and that is Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. At the time, it was a very cool action game. I think it would add some variety to the games offered on this console. A lot of people loved that series. It had a narrative. It had a story being told as you played it. And I think it'd just be a really good addition to the whole thing. This one I had a hard time with, and I had to just kind of accept things for what they are. My next pick is Resident Evil 2. I would love to see Resident Evil on this, but most people's first Resident Evil game was Resident Evil 2. So I feel like Resident Evil 2 would have to be on there. Another thing that was kind of conflicting about that for me, though, is Resident Evil 2 Remake is coming out soon. So I feel like it's almost kind of redundant to be releasing Resident Evil 2 on this and a Resident Evil 2 Remake around the same time. But if we're going for the iconography of PlayStation and what it offered, you know, the 20 games that you'd want from PlayStation, I feel like Resident Evil 2 is a fucking must. I feel like it has to be on there. Be very surprised if it's not. And yeah, I loved Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil, though, I played Resident Evil when it first came out, and it was like, it was mind-blowing to me. It changed everything. The voice acting was awful. The intro cinematic was awful. But I love it. I got deep love for that game. But, you know, if you're going to pick one or two, you have to pick 2 just because that's the one most people fell in love with first. Next game is a game I've actually never played, but I'm picking it on there because, or putting it on there because I'd like to play it. I've heard nothing but good things about it, which is Suikoden 2. Chevy's talked about this game plenty of times. He likes it. A lot of people love this game. And the more I hear about it, the more I realize I should have played it, and I never did. I'd love to see it on there. I'd love to see a game that's not Final Fantasy, that's an RPG on there. I believe Konami made that, back when Konami actually made things, and didn't just fuck people over. And yeah, I think it'd be a really good addition on there. It would kind of maybe get people excited for Suikoden again, and maybe they'd make new ones. Konami outsource it to somebody else or let somebody buy it. THQ Nordic, I know they're buying up a lot of dead properties lately. Next one is Chrono Cross. Chrono Cross is obviously the next in the series of the series Chrono Trigger. But I have fond memories of Chrono Cross, especially the soundtrack. I think it's one of the best soundtracks in any game ever. And I think it would add some really cool color to the games offered on there. A lot of these games had more gritty looks. Chrono Cross had a very vibrant, very fantasy look to it that I'd love to see, and I'd love to have access to playing that again. Next one on here is, there's a lot of 2s on here. Tomb Raider 2. I think Tomb Raider 2 would be really good. Maybe Tomb Raider 3. I thought about Tomb Raider 1, but I feel like most people liked 2 and 3 on this one again. Like, I feel like those sequels are the ones people were playing. Tomb Raider 2, I think any of the Tomb Raiders are a must for me. I feel like they need to be on there. But 2 would probably be a good choice. Next one, I had a hard time picking this just because I've played it so much. Everybody's played it so much. It's been on everything. It's been re-released a million times. But Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. I feel like it has to be on there. People love that game. It's like one of the highest rated games for PlayStation ever. It's just an all-around loved game. It's the best of the series pretty much, which came out a long time ago. And I feel like if it was on there, it would just add more to it. People would see that and go, I fucking want that. So, and I love it too. It had a great soundtrack. It was a really fun game. I've just played it way too much. The next game I'm adding on here just because I feel like it should be on here, but also to even things out a bit. Like I said before, Tekken 3 is on this, so I figured it'd be good to have another fighting game. What better to have on there than Street Fighter Alpha 3? Get a little bit of variety on there. Everybody loves Street Fighter. It's a completely different fighting game than Tekken, so you have a great, well-rounded balance of fighting games. 2 fighting games on one console. 2 controllers, it'd be awesome to be able to play those again with your friends. And the last one I picked, I was going to pick Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but That's one of those games that's literally been released on every single console ever, that you could really play it anywhere at any time almost. I think it's being re-released on PS4 here soon. So I skipped over that, even though that's like the go-to. It only makes sense to have that on there. I skipped over it and added Siphon Filter. I think Siphon Filter is almost forgotten about now, but when it came out, it's like really revolutionary and people fucking loved it. I remember playing it. I really liked it a lot. People always have fond memories about it when you talk to them about Siphon Filter, if they did play that game. And I think it'd be a good game to add in there to kind of mix things up. You don't have a whole lot of, I mean, back then you didn't really have a whole lot of third-person shooters at all. So to have something like that, an early concept of what that genre would become, be very cool to see. And obviously there's a bunch of other games I could add to this list. I think the PlayStation is probably one of the most legendary and iconic consoles ever. It's one of my favorites. And I could add this list all day, but these are the ones that I think would go together the best, would bring the most value to this, $100 price point. And I think a lot of people would get really excited for this. So, although I would love to see Tomba or Tomba 2 on there. Bunch of games. I could do this all day. Let me know in the comments, though, what's your list? You can do 15. You can just say, I would like to see this game on there, or like these 3 games, or I like your list, but take this out and put this there. Let me know everything you're thinking about when it comes to the PlayStation Classic. Are you excited about it? Are you going to pick one up? Are you not into it at all? You're like, fuck these things. I can just download that shit on my fucking computer. Or, you think it's cool, but it's a little too steep on the price, which I can understand that as well. But let me know everything you think about when it comes to that. And that's going to do it for this tasty bit. Till the next episode, have a good week, guys, and take it easy. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider hitting the like button. We'd really appreciate it. And if you want more weekly content, hit the subscribe button. You can always find us on Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter at Tasty Loot Gaming. And as always, thanks for watching.